to talk about today, before I forget, is to do with traces and gists and image schemas, I think. Trace, as I understand it, or as I'm using the term, or maybe an abstract image, is a kind of pattern in the mind that picks up, on a schema indeed, that kind of picks up certain salient details of an experience or an image, and makes that image available for use as a tool for memory, classification, categorization, as a tool for structuring other kinds of experience through metaphor and so on. And I've been thinking how those things develop. And one way that I thought of, which actually comes out of some reading I did on Thomas Aquinas or Augustine, I can't honestly remember. Augustine, I think, where he talks about different forms of knowledge. And he talks about corporeal knowledge, and then some other kind of knowledge, and then intellectual knowledge. And it's kind of, in that writing, knowledge is almost like memory. And he talks about, for example, the corporeal knowledge being pretty much like sensory knowledge. So I look at a tree, and there's the tree, and it's direct, and it's of my current experience. And then he says, you turn away from the tree, and that's the second, slightly higher form of knowledge. I can't remember what he calls it. I think he calls it spiritual knowledge. You turn away from the tree, and you have this other form of knowledge, slightly higher. But certainly what's happening to me when I look at the tree and turn away from it is that certain things are persisting and certain things are falling away. So all the details of the tree I was just looking at, the particular configurations of its branches, the markings on it, whether it had leaves or not, probably not given that it's February, but given that it had anything like that, all that stuff's gone away, or it's become much more fuzzy in my mind. Whereas the basic outline of the tree, the basic form of it, some kind of thick trunk leading to the ground, and then some branches leading off it, some bifurcations, and increasing bifurcations leading to the sky. I mean, that stays around. And if I repeat that process with other trees, I'm looking at the tree, I look away. Again, that process has repeated itself. So the details are fuzzy, but the basic structure of that tree, and particularly the basic structure that it has in common with the previous tree I looked at, is still there. It's there as a kind of, well, what either Augustine or Thomas Aquinas, Augustine I think, would say with spiritual knowledge. So what's the status of that spiritual knowledge? And I guess the more trees I see and the more experiences I have of looking away, and the more the details become fuzzy and the abstract structure becomes deeply traced, the more that kind of thing, that entity exists within my cognition. That makes a kind of sense. It's a visual image which is just repeating and repeating, and parts of it becoming fuzzy and other structural elements becoming more salient and traced. And I think that's, in a sense, what two authors called Brainerd and Reyna, I think. I think they were doing some work to do with pediatrics, actually, but it was something to do with this. And they used the term for this. They used the term fuzzy trace. All right, guy. Oh, my dog's just been sick. You all right, look? Oh dear. Haven't been watching that video, have you? 2 dogs, 1 cup. Maybe not. Hope you're all right, son. Oh. Anyways, they were talking about Brainerd and Reyna. We're talking about fuzzy trace. That's what they refer to it as. They also call it a gist. That when we have certain experiences, like the visual experience of a tree, and repeat that visual experience across different instances, then some parts will go fuzzy and some parts become more deeply etched and traced, and fuzzy trace or gist. I think they're also talking about kind of motor patterns. So I'm thinking about, when I drive my car, the first time you drive your car, or you learn to drive, you depress the clutch, and put the gear into first. And if you kind of remember back from that the first time you do it, well, I can certainly, I could remember, I could feel very strongly part of that pattern. Things like, you know, the amount of pressure I'd have to put on the clutch pedal, or the exact feeling of the gear lever under the palm of my left hand. Those kind of details. As I've driven lots of different cars, many times, all that detail's fallen away now, and there's just a kind of sensorimotor trace left in my, well, not in my consciousness really, but that little action of depressing with the right foot and doing something with my left hand.